My wife of 4 years cheated on me with my own stepbrother and stole my entire life savings. So I built a multi-million-dollar tech empire and legally destroyed their futures, leaving her begging on her knees while my new girlfriend watched. The air inside my house felt unusually heavy that Tuesday afternoon, the kind of suffocating heaviness that settles into your bones before your mind even registers that a catastrophe has occurred. I remember parking my reliable automatic sedan in the driveway, noticing that the curtains were drawn tight, blocking out the late afternoon sun. I walked to the front door and was instantly greeted by a strange and hollow silence that seemed to swallow the entire living room. It was the kind of silence that triggers a primal warning in your brain, telling your instinct something is terribly wrong before you can even process the visual information in front of you. I had come home early from my tech job, hoping to surprise my wife of 4 years. We had built what I genuinely believed was a quiet, stable, and deeply committed life together. But as I stepped further into the hallway and the shadows shifted, I saw the empty rectangular spaces on the walls where our framed photos used to hang. And then I looked toward my home office, and my heart sank so deep into my stomach that I felt physically sick. A cold wave of absolute dread washed over my entire body, paralyzing me in the doorway. I am a meticulous man, a man of intense discipline and careful planning, and I had spent the last 10 years carefully curating a priceless collection of physical media. It was not just a hobby to me. It was a tangible investment of my time, my passion, and my financial foresight. My shelves have been lined with pristine physical manga volumes, absolute masterpieces of existential literature and dark psychological horror that I treated with absolute reverence. I had retro consoles that were entirely untouched, preserved immaculately in their original boxes, never exposed to direct sunlight or dust. I had a massive sealed box of Pokemon Soul Silver, complete with the original Pokewalker, a crown jewel of nostalgia that was worth a small fortune. I had a perfectly preserved copy of Super Mario Galaxy, and perhaps most importantly, I had heavy custom-built binders filled entirely with rare, full-art holographic cards. I never bothered with the standard cheap variants. I only collected the true hits, the full-art masterpieces that serious collectors hunted for years to find. My collection was my sanctuary. It was my safe haven away from the noise of the world, and it was a massive financial asset meant to secure our future. And now, as I stood there barely able to breathe, the shelves were completely bare, just empty with gathering dust in the dim light. Panic set in like a violent storm. I rushed through the house calling her name, my voice echoing off the empty walls and returning to me with a mocking emptiness. My first logical thought was that we had been robbed. I assumed a crew of professional thieves had broken in and systematically stripped away the things I loved most. I checked the windows, but the glass was unbroken. I checked the back door, but the locks were perfectly intact. There was no sign of forced entry, no chaos, no destruction, just a surgical removal of everything valuable I owned. I walked into our bedroom with my chest heaving, and that was when I saw it. Her closet was completely emptied out. All her clothes, her shoes, her jewelry boxes were gone, and resting right in the exact center of our neatly made bed was a hastily written note. I walked toward it slowly, my legs feeling like lead. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. She did not even have the decency to wait and look me in the eye. She did not have the courage to face the man she was destroying. I picked up the note with trembling hands. She wrote that she was leaving me. Her words were sharp, dismissive, and dripping with a cruel kind of arrogance. She wrote that she had found someone who actually lived in the real world instead of obsessing over childish investments, code, and old video games. She said she was suffocating in our quiet life, and that she desperately needed excitement, passion, and a real man who knew how to take risks. And then, in the final paragraph, she revealed the part that completely shattered my reality into a million jagged pieces. She was leaving me for my stepbrother. The betrayal hit me so hard I physically stumbled backward. My stepbrother was the exact same man who had always mocked my quiet lifestyle, my dedication to my tech work, and my disciplined routines. He was a loud, obnoxious, and arrogant man who always projected the fake image of an alpha male, a guy who pretended to be infinitely more successful than he actually was, driving leased cars and wearing fake designer watches. They had been seeing each other behind my back for over a year. She had been smiling in my face, kissing me goodnight, and sitting across from me during family dinners, all while secretly plotting my absolute and total ruin with a member of my own family. The betrayal felt like a physical knife twisted in my ribs. I could barely breathe as the reality of the situation crushed the air out of my lungs. But the nightmare, as horrifying as it was only just beginning to unfold. Acting on pure adrenaline and sheer panic, I rushed over my Asus all-in-one computer. My hands were shaking so violently that I mistyped my password 3 times before finally getting into the system. I opened my browser and logged into our shared bank accounts. The loading wheel spun for what felt like an eternity. And when the page finally rendered, I stared at the screen in pure, unadulterated horror. The balance was 0. There was nothing left. She had drained every single account. Our checking, our savings, the emergency fund we had built together over 4 long years. Every cent we had saved was entirely gone, transferred out in a series of calculated moves over the past 48 hours. And then the final, sickening realization hit me like a runaway freight train. They had not just emptied the bank accounts, they had systematically packed up and liquidated my entire irreplaceable collection. She knew exactly how much those full art cards, those sealed retro games, and those pristine manga volumes were worth because I had trusted her. I had confided in her about the market values, thinking I was sharing our financial security with the woman I loved, my stepbrother, with his shady connections and desperate need for quick cash, had the exact network needed to fence those items quickly on the underground collector's market. They had stolen my past, my present, and my future to fund their twisted new life together. They took everything I had meticulously built and left me standing completely alone in a silent, empty house with nothing but a worthless, cruel piece of paper mocking me from the bed. The next 6 months were a suffocating blur of vicious legal battles and deep, terrifying psychological darkness. The divorce proceedings were an absolute nightmare because she had carefully and maliciously planned her exit strategy months in advance. She hired a ruthless, predatory lawyer who manipulated the facts, twisted my introverted nature, and painted me as an emotionally absent, neglectful husband who was obsessed with fantasy worlds instead of his marriage. My stepbrother, dripping with arrogance, funded her massive legal fees using the very money they had stolen from me. They sat together in the courtroom, whispering to each other, holding hands, and actually smiling while I sat there, completely broken, watching my life burn to ground, because she had secretly transferred the funds to offshore accounts and shell companies before formally filing the paperwork. The judge claimed there was insufficient proof of malicious theft. The legal system failed me completely. The court awarded her the house, citing her need for stability, and left me drowning in the remaining shared debt. I was forced to pack what little clothes I had left and move into a tiny, damp, and miserable apartment on the absolute worst side of the city. The kind of place where the walls are paper thin and the smell of cheap cigarettes and despair permanently stains the carpets. I slept on a cheap air mattress that slowly deflated every single night, leaving me shivering and aching on the cold hardwood floor. By 3 a.m, I ate cheap instant noodles, drank bitter tap water, and stared at the cracked ceiling for hours on end. The silence of that tiny apartment was deafening, a constant, crushing reminder of my absolute failure, my humiliation, and the fact that the people I trusted most in the world had successfully destroyed me without facing a single consequence. I stopped talking to my extended family because the shame was too heavy to carry. The thought that my own flesh and blood was out there bragging about his new life with my wife made me violently ill. For a long, dark period, I let the depression consume me entirely. I felt completely hollow, like a ghost haunted my own life. I operated on autopilot, going to my low-level data annotation jobs, reviewing code, training logic models, and returning to my deflated mattress. But one freezing night, as the rain pounded aggressively against my single cracked window, something deep inside my mind finally shifted. The crushing weight of the sadness, the pathetic self-pity, it all suddenly evaporated, replaced by a cold, calculated, and terrifyingly sharp clarity. I realized that sitting in the dark and crying over my stolen life was exactly what they expected me to do. They thought I was weak. They thought I was just a quiet nerd who would fade away into misery and let them enjoy the luxurious spoils of their betrayal. I slowly sat up in the dark, the cold air biting at my skin, and I felt a new kind of energy coursing through my veins. It was not the fiery, chaotic anger of a victim. It was a freezing, absolute resolve of a predator. I realized I had a choice. I could either die in this miserable room, or I could use the exact skills I had spent my life perfecting to build a weapon, my background in AI data annotation, Python programming, and deep logical architecture, combined with my intimate knowledge of the high-end physical media collectors market, gave me a very specific, highly lethal set of tools. I understood the underground market better than anyone. I knew that the biggest problem for wealthy, serious collectors and high-tier investors was a massive influx of counterfeit items, fraudulent grading, and untraceable black market transactions, the very same corrupt, unregulated systems my stepbrother had exploited to fence my stolen collection. I sat down at my cheap, overheating laptop, cracked my knuckles, and began to code. I poured every single ounce of my pain, my betrayal, and my cold rage into the keyboard. I adopted a heavy-duty mentality, high intensity, low volume, zero wasted effort. I worked in absolute silence, writing thousands of lines of flawless Python, building the complex architecture for a revolutionary digital platform. It was not just a marketplace. It was an exclusive, highly secure digital auction house and advanced authentication service designed entirely for ultra-rare physical assets. I integrated complex machine learning algorithms, deep digital footprint tracking, and impossibly strict financial compliance protocols that made it absolutely impossible for thieves or scammers to launder stolen goods through my system without leaving a permanent, undeniable trail of evidence. I was building a massive digital fortress, and I was going to use it to conquer and control the very market they thought they had mastered. It took me 8 grueling months to build the perfect prototype. I lived like an absolute ghost. I existed entirely on cheap, smooth coffee made in a French press and sheer, unadulterated willpower. I did not go out. I did not socialize. I just coded, tested, and refined. But I knew I could not launch a platform of this magnitude entirely alone. I needed someone who could operate in the light. Someone who understood the physical, psychological value of these rare items as deeply as I understood the digital infrastructure. Someone who could handle the elite clientele while I controlled the massive data flows from the shadows. That was when I met her, my new partner, and the woman who would eventually change everything. She was a brilliant, fiercely independent psychologist turned elite appraiser, a woman with a sharp, analytical mind and a wardrobe consisting almost entirely of elegant, dark green tones. She had been blacklisted by the traditional, corrupt auction houses because she refused to play their games and constantly exposed their fraudulent practices. She had eyes that missed absolutely nothing and a ruthless, pragmatic intelligence. We met in a quiet, dimly lit coffee shop downtown. I slid my laptop across the table and showed her the system architecture. She did not ask stupid questions. She did not make small talk. She reviewed the code, the security protocols, and the business model in complete, focused silence for 30 solid minutes. Then, she slowly closed the laptop, looked me dead in the eyes, and smiled a very dangerous, knowing smile. She saw the cold ambition in me because she carried the exact same fire within herself. She told me that we were not just going to enter the market. We were going to tear the traditional establishments to shreds. We launched the platform under strict invitation-only access. We aggressively targeted the most elite, wealthy, and frustrated collectors in the world, the heavy hitters who were tired of being scammed by the very systems my stepbrother relied on. We offered them absolute security, flawless authentication, and total anonymity. The response was explosive. It was like pouring gasoline on a dry forest. Within the first 45 days, we facilitated over $20 million in highly secure, verified transactions. Our AI-driven authentication protocols were completely flawless, catching counterfeits and stolen goods before they even hit the main ledger. We took a healthy percentage of every single massive sale, and the revenue began to pour into our accounts like a relentless flood. I finally moved out of that miserable, damp apartment. I bought a sprawling, multi-million-dollar penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city skyline. The deflated air mattress was replaced by custom, high-end furniture. The cheap instant noodles were replaced by private catering. But the massive influx of wealth did not change the cold, calculated resolve sitting heavy in my chest. I did not buy flashy sports cars or ridiculous diamond watches. I reinvested almost every single dollar right back into the platform, upgrading our servers, expanding our global reach, and tightening our iron grip on the international market. Within a year and a half, we became the absolute authority, the undisputed gatekeepers of the high-end physical media and rare asset world. Our company was a behemoth, and my personal net worth had quietly skyrocketed into the tens of millions. During those long, intense nights of building the empire, My new partner and I grew incredibly close. It started as mutual respect and evolved into a deep, unbreakable bond. She understood the dark, calculated side of me because she possessed it too. She was everything my ex-wife could never be. She was fiercely loyal, impossibly intelligent, and completely independent. She never asked me for anything. She never demanded my attention because she was too busy building her own massive wealth, standing right alongside me. We became an unstoppable force, a silent, lethal partnership that dominated the industry. And to make the penthouse feel like a real home, I finally got the dog I had always wanted, a beautiful, massive, gray standard American bully. Kept completely natural, no cropped ears, no docktail, just a loyal, powerful companion who slept by my feet while I monitored the global servers. I had achieved absolute financial freedom. I had built a life of luxury and power that my ex-wife and stepbrother could not even comprehend in their wildest dreams. But I was not done. The real objective, the burning core of my motivation, was never just about getting rich. The money was just the ammunition. The true goal was waiting patiently in the shadows for the absolute perfect moment to spring the trap I had built specifically for them. I knew my stepbrother's psychology perfectly. I knew he was arrogant, greedy, and incredibly short-sighted. I knew that the money he stole from me, no matter how much it was, would never be enough to sustain the fake, luxurious, high-roller lifestyle he had promised my ex-wife. He was a gambler at heart, a man who constantly needed to project an image of extreme wealth to feed his fragile ego. And people like that always over-leverage themselves. They always take reckless risks, and they always crash. I kept a very close, automated eye on the digital transactions flowing through our platform's massive database. I set up specialized algorithms to search for any anomalies, specific IP addresses, or geographical footprints that matched his location. I waited in silence, letting them think they had won, letting them live in their stolen house, while I held the financial sniper rifle perfectly steady, waiting for them to walk into the crosshairs. Exactly 2 years and 4 months after the day they left me with nothing, my infinite patience finally paid off. It was late on a Thursday night. My partner was reading on the velvet sofa in her dark green silk robe, and the dog was snoring on a rug, when the automated security flags on my admin dashboard suddenly lit up in bright red. A new shell company had just applied for our highest tier seller status. The account was attempting to list a massive, desperate collection of supposedly rare assets, real estate deeds, and luxury goods to quickly liquidate them for millions in cash. The account was registered under a complex, layered web of offshore proxies and fake names, designed to look like a legitimate foreign investment firm. But arrogance always leads to mistakes, and they made one fatal, incredibly stupid error. They were impatient. The funds they were trying to move were clearly tied to a failing venture, and they needed the money cleared immediately to avoid a massive default. So, they used the platform's customer support chat to aggressively try and expedite the manual verification process. I sat back in my leather office chair, my heart beating with a slow, heavy rhythm, and I pulled up the live chat logs. The person on the other end of the screen was demanding immediate approval, threatening to take their business elsewhere. But it was not the threats that caught my attention. It was the syntax, the specific, atrocious grammatical structure. I stared at the screen, analyzing the text. It was the exact same terrible grammar my ex-wife always used when she was panicked or frustrated. The improper capitalization of random nouns, the complete lack of commas, the aggressive, entitled, and completely illogical tone. It was unmistakably her. She was acting as the administrative front for his failing schemes. I ran a deep digital forensics trace on the IP address, bypassing their cheap VPNs in seconds, and traced the shell company directly, back to my stepbrother's personal devices. The puzzle pieces snapped together perfectly. They were completely broke. They had burned through all my stolen money trying to maintain their fake lifestyle. His reckless investments had collapsed, and they were now desperately trying to launder illicit funds from another failed, highly illegal scam to my platform, hoping to wash the money clean and escape their creditors. They had absolutely no idea who owned the company they were dealing with. My name was buried under layers of corporate structuring. They were walking blindly, arrogantly, into the exact slaughterhouse I had spent 2 years building specifically for them. I called my partner over the monitors. I pointed at the flashing data streams and told her exactly who they were. She looked at the screen, her eyes tracing the IP logs and the desperate chat messages, and her expression went completely cold, A chilling, beautiful ruthlessness settled over her face. She looked down at me and asked what the next move was. I leaned back, steepled my fingers, and told the plan we let them in. We approved their seller status. We let them upload every single asset they have left. We let them initiate the massive transfer of their illicit funds into our secure escrow account. And the absolute second the money clears, we lock the heavy steel doors permanently. We manually approved their elite seller status, bypassing the waiting period just to give them a false sense of absolute victory. We watched in real time on the back-end servers as they desperately uploaded everything. They initiated a massive, multi-million-dollar transfer of highly questionable, unregulated funds, hoping to wash the money clean through our impenetrable secure system. They thought they had found the perfect digital loophole. They thought they were the smartest people in the room. They thought they were untouchable. I sat there, sipping my coffee, watching the progress bar slowly fill as the international banking threshold were crossed. The exact moment the funds officially cleared the global banking system and landed heavily in our encrypted escrow server, I executed the absolute highest level compliance protocol. With a single keystroke, I froze the entire account. I locked every single cent they had into an inaccessible, heavily encrypted federal vault, shutting down their access entirely. The chat log immediately lit up with frantic, panic messages from my ex-wife, but I ignored them. Instead, I triggered the automated federal reporting system. Under strict international anti-money laundering laws, our platform was legally obligated to report any highly suspicious activity, massive unverified transfers, or potential fraud directly to the highest federal authorities. I did not just send an automated flag. I personally packaged a massive, undeniable digital dossier. I included every single piece of their digital footprint, every real IP address, every fake document they had submitted, the chat logs proving their malicious intent, and the exact routing numbers of their illicit accounts. I sent the entire damning package to the Federal Financial Crimes Division with a single click. I handed the government the smoking gun, the bullets, and the video of them pulling the trigger. The trap had snapped shut with bone-crushing force, and it was absolutely unbreakable. The fallout was instantaneous, brutal, and utterly catastrophic for them. Because of the undeniable evidence I provided, their remaining physical assets and bank accounts were frozen by the government within 48 hours. Federal investigators executed a no-knock raid on my stepbrother's fake office in their home, confiscating computers, files, and every luxury item they had purchased with stolen funds. They were hit with massive federal fraud charges, money laundering, and tax evasion, looking at decades in federal prison. Their entire fake empire collapsed faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. They were left with absolutely nothing, no money, no home, no cars, and absolutely no future. The absolute suffocating panic must have set in when they realized they could not access a single dime to hire a defense lawyer. They were relying on public defenders to fight a federal case they had already lost. And that was when she finally figured it out, during the discovery phase of their impending criminal trial. She must have seen the official compliance documents filed with the authorities. She must have seen my signature, my legal name listed as the founder and CEO of the massive tech empire that had just handed them over to feds. The realization that the introverted, quiet ex-husband she had abandoned, mocked, and robbed was actually the architect of her absolute, total destruction must have shattered whatever was left of her fragile, arrogant mind. It was a violently rainy Friday afternoon when the private line on my desk rang. The head of building security for my penthouse was on the other end. His voice was laced with confusion and disgust. He told me that a woman was currently in the massive marble lobby, completely hysterical, crying, screaming my name, and begging to see me. He said she looked like a complete mess and was refusing to leave the premises, threatening to sleep on the floor if she had to. I knew exactly who it was. I felt my heart beat a little slower, a deep, cold satisfaction spreading through my chest. I told security to let her into the private elevator and send her up to the penthouse floor. I wanted to look her in the eye one last time. I wanted to see the absolute ruin I had orchestrated. I stood in the dead center of my massive living room, the floor-to-ceiling windows behind me showcasing the dark, storm-covered city skyline. My partner stood silently beside me, wearing a stunning dark green dress, her arms crossed, her posture radiating absolute power and a look of cold, unyielding disgust on her face. My gray American bully sat calmly at my side, sensing the tension but remaining perfectly disciplined. The heavy metal doors of the private elevator chimed and slowly slid open, and my ex-wife stumbled out onto the expensive hardwood floor. She looked completely and utterly destroyed. The expensive designer clothes she had bought with my stolen money were dirty, wrinkled, and soaked from rain. Her hair was a chaotic, tangled mess clinging to her face, and her eyes were swollen red and bloodshot from days of endless crying. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the span of a week. The arrogant, cruel, and entitled woman who had left that mocking note on my bed was entirely gone, completely erased from existence, replaced by a pathetic, shaking, broken shell of a human being. She took one look at the massive penthouse, at the luxury she could have had, at the beautiful, powerful woman standing next to me, and her legs completely gave out. She collapsed to her knees on the floor, the tears streaming down her face as she began to hyperventilate and beg. Her voice was hoarse and cracking. She told me she had made a horrible, unforgivable mistake. She desperately tried to shift the blame, crying that my stepbrother had manipulated her, that he forced her to steal the money, that she had always loved me and was just confused. She begged me to release the frozen funds. She begged me to call off the federal investigators. She promised she would do absolutely anything, sign any contract, be a slave to my company, just to make it right. She wailed about how they were going to go to a federal penitentiary and how she was currently sleeping in her car because the bank had seized the house. Her voice echoed off the high ceilings of the massive room, completely devoid of any pride, any dignity, or any leverage. I stood there in absolute, suffocating silence and just watched her cry. I felt absolutely no pity for the creature on my floor. I felt no lingering anger. I felt no sadness. I felt nothing but a cold, heavy, and absolute satisfaction. The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity, the only sounds in the room being the heavy rain hitting the glass and her pathetic, gasping sobs echoing against the marble. I let her sit in that silence. I let her feel the crushing weight of my power, the realization that she was completely and entirely at my mercy, and that I had absolutely none to give. Finally, after minutes of her humiliating display, I took a single, slow step forward and looked down at her. I did not raise my voice. I did not yell. I spoke in a quiet, perfectly calm, and chillingly even tone. I told her that there was no mistake. I told her that I had spent the last 2 years building this entire empire, writing every line of code, securing every contract, specifically to ensure that parasites like her would never profit from the pain of others ever again. I told her that the money she thought she could steal to save her pathetic life was locked away in a federal vault, and she was never going to see a single cent of it ever again. Not in this lifetime, not in the next. She looked up at me, and I saw the exact moment her soul broke. She looked at me with absolute, unfiltered terror in her eyes. She realized in that exact moment that I was not the quiet, weak, and forgiving man she had abandoned in that empty house. I was a completely different entity. I was a man who held her entire future, her freedom, and her life in the palm of my hand, and I had already closed my fist to crush it into dust. She reached out a shaking hand, trying to grab the fabric of my pants, desperately trying to find some sliver of the man who used to love her. But before her fingers could even brush my leg, my partner stepped forward, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. She physically blocked my ex-wife, looking down at her with eyes that were colder than ice. She did not raise her voice either. She simply stated, with absolute authority, that my ex-wife was trespassing on private property and that building security was already in the elevator on their way up to forcibly remove her. My ex-wife looked at my new partner, seeing the absolute superiority, the loyalty, and the power she radiated, and she realized there was absolutely no hope left. She had lost the game she thought she was winning. The elevator chimed again, and 2 massive, heavily built security guards stepped out into the room. They did not hesitate. They grabbed her roughly by the arms and dragged her backward across the floor toward the closing doors. She began to scream my name, a guttural, desperate wail. She begged, she pleaded, she thrashed against the guards, but it was completely useless. The heavy metal doors slowly slid shut, cutting off her voice entirely, trapping her in the nightmare she had created for herself. The room fell back into a comfortable, heavy, and peaceful silence. I turned away from the elevator, feeling a massive weight finally lift off my shoulders. I walked back over the massive window, looking out over the sprawling city that I had conquered with my own 2 hands. The violent storm outside was finally beginning to clear, revealing the bright city lights beneath the clouds. I poured myself a glass of cold water, took a slow drink, and stood shoulder to shoulder with the brilliant woman who had helped me build my fortress. My dog leaned his heavy head against my leg. The past was entirely dead, buried under mountains of federal evidence, and my future was absolutely, unequivocally untouchable.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this, please like and subscribe. Your support means everything and helps me create more of these dramas. See you in the next story.